Hey guys, I have a Discord server. You guys should totally join our community. I'm also really active on Twitch as well as social media like Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. If you guys want to follow me and stay up to date with everything, check out all the links in the description down below. And I guess enjoy the video. Hey guys, today we're going to be checking out the ultimate CSGO inventory with a knife for under $50. So let's get right into it. Hey, what's up guys, it's Turbo here and welcome back to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing the ultimate CSGO inventory for just $50, including a knife. Yep, keep in mind though, the prices are from Bitskin, so they are quite a bit cheaper than on the market price, and prices do change all the time. So I got these prices from when I made the video, but since then the prices could have changed, so keep that in mind. Anyways, I was actually able to build a pretty good inventory for like just $50. So if you have a really low budget and you're looking for a relatively cheap inventory, hopefully this video will at least give you guys some ideas if you don't want to just straight up like, you know, copy the inventory that I made, because you might not be the biggest fan of like one or two of the skins. Anyways, starting off is the USPS Night Ops, and this is actually a really cool skin. So it's relatively cheap, which is always nice. It's always on the nice side of things, and it actually doesn't look that bad. It's basically just a blue kind of camo skin. It's cheap, and actually not a lot of people use these, so they're, you know, so if you want to be kind of unique and if you want to stand out, this is a pretty decent option. Next up, we have the Glock 18 off-road, and I've made multiple videos about this one. It's basically just a blue kind of Glock. However though, if you do get it in battle scarred, a skull actually kind of forms on the gun. Like it scratches more and more, and if you get a low float or if you get a high float battle scarred one, the skull is actually pretty noticeable, which in my opinion honestly makes the skin look a little bit cooler. Like that's why I would personally recommend the battle scarred one, because it looks better and it's cheaper. Next up, we have the dual Berettas Dueling Dragons, and these are really cool. So these have always been some of my favorite dualies in the game, and it's for good reason too. Like they just have a pretty cool design. Like they're basically dualies with like little dragons on them. Dude, that's so cool. Next up, we have the P250 Exchanger, and this thing actually looks kind of cool. So this thing is from the Nuke collection, and I guess it's kind of like a reactor of some sort, or it's something. One of the main reasons why I personally like this skin is just because it's kind of a cool design. It's really unique, and it also has little accents of blue which just look perfect on it. Like they just fit perfectly. So yeah, I mean overall this is actually a really cool skin, and it's relatively new too. So honestly, I haven't really seen this skin used in matchmaking, so it might be worth picking up just because it's something a little bit different. But anyways, next up we have the 5.7 Capillary, and this is actually such a dope skin. It's basically just some like veins or like whatever. There's some like blue and like red veins just chilling. It's basically just kind of like a blue skin with some accents of, you know, a little bit of pink, and it has a bunch of veins just flowing through it, and it looks pretty cool. All right, next up is the Desert Eagle Meteorite, and this is actually a really cool deagle. Like I've never, like a lot of people usually go with the bronze deco, but this one I think looks a little bit cooler. Basically, it's a blackish deagle with a bunch of yellow triangles, and it actually looks really cool, like when you actually stare at it. But regardless though, anyways, next up is the Tech 9 Cracked Opal, just a pretty dope looking Tech 9 in my opinion, and it's also very cheap too, so it's like a perfect match for this list. It's basically kind of like a rock with like blue glowing stuff in the middle, and it's like cracked opal. Wow. But yeah, I like it though. I think it looks really dope. All right, anyways, next up for the heavy, starting off we have the Nova Candy Apple, and I had to throw this on this list because it is such an insanely cheap skin, and it actually looks pretty dope. It's basically just a red Nova. Like that's basically all it is, and just the red by itself makes it look really cool. For that reason, it's probably your best bet on a budget. But anyways, we have the XM1014 Oxide Blaze next, and that is another cool skin as well. If you guys probably do remember the, you know, the Desert Eagle Oxide Blaze. Well, this is that, but on an XM1014, which actually looks really dope. It's basically like a rusty auto shotty. All right, next up we have the Sawed Off Morris, and this is another cool skin. And for the low price of 12 cents for factory new, you can get your hands on one of these bad boys right now. And the thing that makes it really cool is the fact that it has flowers on it. Yeah. Next skin. All right, next up we have the Mag 7 Heat, and this has been a fan favorite for a very long time. This is actually a really dope looking Mag 7. It's very simple and it's very cheap. It's like originally metal, but it's like hot enough to glow. It has glowing kind of metal like in the corners, and it looks really awesome. So yeah, I mean it's still one of my favorite Mag 7s, and I don't think anything will ever replace it. But anyways, next up we have the M249 System Lock Minimal Wear, and this thing is very simple. It's basically just like a black and red M249. Just there's not not really too much to say about it. It's just a pretty cool skin, and it's cheap too. So those are pretty much the those are like the two things you have to worry about. But other than that, though, you're good to go. And finally, for the last heavy is the Negev Dazzle. And yeah, like the name insists, it's basically just a white Negev with a bunch of kind of like blue lines going through it. That's how I choose to explain it. I don't know. But I mean, honestly, for the price, this thing is really dope. Like, to be perfectly honest with you guys. Anyways, though, next up, moving on to the SMGs, we're starting off with the MP9. We have the Ruby Poison Dart. And the Ruby Poison Dart has just always been... It's always been one of my favorite MP9 skins in the game because number one, it's cheap, and number two, it actually looks really cool. And it kind of reminds me of a frog, which I guess that's literally where I got its design from. The Ruby Poison Dart. Like, that's literally a frog. But yeah, it's basically a frog-inspired skin. It has some red, some yellow, and then there's like little bits of pink and purple. I guess purple. But just overall, its design looks really dope. And if you get one with a good pattern, like, it looks pretty cool. Actually, I think all of them look the same. Never mind, I'm stupid. I just like compare it. Never mind. Yeah, they all look the same. Okay, there aren't any patterns. All right, whatever. But speaking of patterns, which there aren't any patterns, next up we have the MP7 Cirrus Minimal Wear, and this thing is very blue. This is a very blue skin. It's light blue, not dark blue, so don't get it mixed up. But definitely for the price, this skin will get you places. Like, honestly, I think you'll love this skin for the price. It's cheap and it still looks good, which is honestly awesome. Like, when there's skins that are both cheap and look really cool, it's just the perfect combination. All right, but next up we have the UMP carbon fiber. I don't really like, this doesn't really require any explanation. It's just a UMP with carbon fiber on it. That's literally all it is. Like, what else am I gonna say? Like, oh, it has these little black squares. Like, that's what carbon fiber is. Yeah, you get it, right? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Speaking of talking about, next up is the P90 Grim. One of the best budget P90s in the game, honestly. This thing looks super dope. Basically like the king of skulls or whatever. Like, okay, I can't tell if he has like a skull hand with like skull fingers or if those are like his minions. They could just be his minions, but yeah, a lot of skulls on here. It's very spooky, and for that reason, I like it. Next up, we have the PP Bison Harvester. And the reason why this is in the game, like, this actually, when you look at the details, this thing is actually really cool, but not a lot of people like it. But the reason why this thing is so cool is because it was actually made by somebody in the community. There was basically a contest to like try to make some really cool kind of like sci-fi kind of skins. Sci-fi like skins, and this one as well as the M4A4 Desolate Space both made it into the game. And I mean, at first glance, this isn't really that cool of a skin, but when you actually look at the details, this thing is incredibly cool. But anyways, though, next up we have the Mac 10 Lapis Gator. Basically, it's lapis lazuli and alligators if they had a baby. There's basically blue gator scales on this skin. That's pretty much the only way to describe it. Anyways, moving on to the rifles. Next up, we have the FAMAS Survivor Z. And the FAMAS Survivor Z is a very cool skin in the sense that it actually looks really cool in game. So there's a lot of really cool details that might catch your eye. There's like the finger scratches or whatever, like, you know, somebody tried to claw at him or whatever. And then there's just all the red stuff on it. And then there's the metal underneath telling a story with some blood on it. This is a FAMAS that was stuck in a zombie apocalypse and survived somehow. When you actually break down the skins, they sound so much cooler than, yeah, okay. Anyways, yeah, the Survivor Z is pretty sick. Now we have the Galil Rocket Pop, and this is like, I remember I've used this Galil for such a long time just because I love it so much. But basically what it is it's a red, white, and blue Galil. Like, it has a couple different art styles all combined. There's like some lines, and then there's like actually some particles like around the skin too, which kind of makes it look a lot more distinct. And I actually never really noticed those details before. I guess you have to like look at the skins because there's a lot more details than you might not expect. But yeah, the Galil Rocket Pop is a very solid skin. All right, speaking of dope, speaking of cool, next up we have the Scar 20 carbon fiber, and like the other Scar 20 we went over earlier today, there's not really too much you can say to like describe it. It's basically just a Scar 20 with carbon fiber on it. Or we could use the same explanation as last time and just call it a bunch of black squares. No, it's carbon fiber. And that moves on to our next skin, the G3 SG1 Polar Camo. I think this is probably one of the worst looking skins I went over, but you know what? It's not even that bad. Like, since you're not going to be using the G3 SG1 that much anyways, it's kind of like it's basically just like a snow camo kind of skin. And I mean, camo kind of makes sense in a game like this. Like, camo doesn't look that bad. I mean, I know regular green camo can be kind of weird, but dude, white camo looks awesome. Bro, don't even lie. Moving on, we have the AUG Condemned, and this is actually a pretty not a terrible skin. So At first glance, it kind of looks like it has scales. They're basically like diamonds. It basically just has a bunch of like diamonds, kind of like, they're kind of like scales. And then there's like little bits of like orange spray paint on it. And yes, it is a very cheap skin. You can get one of these for a very, very low amount of money. But I mean, you know, for the price, considering the budget, it's not that bad. Speaking of not that bad, next up we have the SG553 Damascus Steel. And honestly, like, yeah, Damascus Steel, like on a knife looks really cool, but on a gun, like it still looks pretty dope. Like the Damascus Steel on the SG actually doesn't look bad at all. Like in fact, it looks pretty cool. It's just kind of ridiculous how cheap this is compared to like any of the, even the gut knife Damascus Steel. Like that's like infinitely more expensive than this. All right, next up we have the SSG08 Necropause. And I guess on the surface, if you just glance at it, it looks like a very cheap skin, but when you actually look at the details, it actually looks really, really cool. It kind of looks like a skin that like a necromancer or whatever would make. There's like some glowing green on it, and it's like mostly made out of rock. It says like hunt them down on the side, and then yeah, there's like lots of little like spikes on the side, like, and then of course it has, whenever you're like holding it, you always see like a skull on the back, which is actually kind of cool. Like that's really cool placement for a skull like that. It's just insane how cheap the skin is. All right, next up we have the Op Paw, and this is actually the most expensive skin on this list besides the knife. And this thing is ridiculous. The Op Paw is by far one of my favorite ops in the game, even though it's incredibly cheap because of its design. It has a lot of little cats and dogs, and there's a ton of little Easter eggs. Like I like skins like this that are pattern based, where every single one looks a little bit different. Because like if you have like if you prefer cats or prefer dogs, or you like a specific cat or dog, you can always try to get a pattern with that one in there. Like it makes your Op Paw more unique. So yeah, I mean honestly, I'm a big fan of the Op Paw. Next up we have the AK-47 Elite build, field tested, and the Elite build is a classic. It's been around for a very long time, since the Chroma 2 collection, I believe. It's probably like the Chroma 2 collection. And when it came out, it was actually one of the first AKs to be a blue skin. It was one of the first blue skins to become a mil spec. And honestly, I feel like it looks like it could be like at least a restricted, or maybe not higher than that, but it has a cool look to it. It's basically black and gray with little accents of orange, and it just looks so cool. Unfortunately, though, it did go up in price a lot. It used to be a lot cheaper, but the prices of Elite builds just went up by a ridiculous amount. So they're still kind of cheap if you get them in field tested, but they used to be a lot cheaper. Speaking of cheaper, next up we have the M4A1S Boreal Forest. So if you prefer the M4A1S, you can get this one. If not, I also have an M4 skin that I can suggest. But yeah, the Boreal Forest is basically just a camo kind of M4A1S. I feel like that's the best way to describe it. It's just camo. And finally, for the M4A4, we have the mainframe. And the M4A4 mainframe actually looks, okay, it looks very similar to the default AK, but it has some shocking details that the original one didn't have that make it look a lot better. It basically just has some like circuits or whatever on it, like a black kind of circuit board. And it's a simple skin. It's subtle. It's not like crazy and over the top, but it looks a lot cooler than the default M4, which is, that's pretty good. And it's also 35 cents too, so it's not exorbitantly expensive. It's not insanely expensive. And finally, guys, for the skin you've all been waiting for, the knife. For the knife, I went with the Shadow Dagger Boreal Forest's minimal wear. To be fair though, I mean, honestly, you don't have to go with these ones. You could go with any knife. You could go with any knife that's around like $40 on Bitskins. Just like click on knives, sort by lowest, and then try to find the lowest priced ones. I just got these because they were the lowest priced ones at the time that looked the coolest and were the best condition. These are just some green Shadow Daggers with some camo on them, and it matches all the other skins that have camo. And that's an entire full inventory, or an entire full CSGO loadout for $50 on Bitskins. Obviously the prices could change, so yeah, just keep that in mind. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know if you guys let me know what skins you agreed with, and let me know if there were some other skins I should have chosen instead. I wanted to keep it under $50, so I had to be kind of careful. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, share, subscribe, click that bell icon, and if you watched the video all the way until the end, leave a comment saying #turbo. Those skins are actually pretty cheap. That's a nice inventory for $50. Yeah. That's pretty long, but yeah, if you do that, I'll do my best to try to give you guys a heart. And overall, guys, you know, follow my Twitch, follow my Twitter, follow my Instagram, check out my social media, join my Discord server, and I guess until next time, until tomorrow, I will see you guys then. So thank you so much for watching. It's Turbo, and I'm out. Peace.